filed my taxes, and maybe I did something wrong, or maybe you have some answers. So that whole no tax on overtime thing. I worked at a blue-collar job the majority of 2025. I made about twice as much this year, don't get crazy, it doesn't mean anything, as I did in 2024. Now, I have that overtime tax credit. Tell me why, with that additional credit, my return is just twice as much as it was last year. It's a fucking scam. Does anybody have answers? I think they duped us, or maybe they lowered the tax rates. I don't know these things, but I guess I'm reaching out to see if anybody else had the same. Because I was expecting, like, you know, not a lot, but more than it usually is. And I don't think that would be an unfair assumption based on, you know, the pretty package that they sold us. So was it just yet another lie?
Does it have to be no tax on overtime? Why can't it be no tax on straight time to a certain point? Just think about it. They're selling this like it's some kind of win, but you're selling part of your life to get some crappy tax incentive that don't live up to the hype. Meanwhile, billionaires are getting massive tax cuts and they don't have to work extra hours. We're getting played here. Don't you think it's time we start taxing the rich and giving tax cuts to the people that deserve it? The working class.
Hey, that's what you think, but that's not the reality of it. And even people are fed up in just a general sense. They're tired of this whole administration. Check this out.
You know, I voted Republican for a while. I'm not doing it ever again. After seeing that guy in Minnesota get shot, no. I'm done. I'll vote Democrat now.
They sold you the American dream at a time and half. Then taxed the dream and kept the half. Right now, millions of working Americans are sitting at their kitchen tables, staring at tax forms, realizing they've been played. You work those extra hours, you sacrifice time with your kids, your sleep, your sanity because they promised you no tax on overtime. You believe them, you voted for it, and now you're discovering that no tax on overtime actually means we'll give you back on pennies the premium while we still tax your blood, sweat, and tears at the regular rate. And this is not just about taxes. This is about how the American working class keeps getting sold a Ferrari and delivered a bicycle with a flat tire. I want you guys to stay with me because what I'm about to show you will change how you see every political promise here on out. Watch these clips. I'll be back.
No tax on overtime is the biggest joke. I did my taxes last night, or I attempted to, and I said, well, at least I'll get back the taxes on all the overtime I worked this past year. Guess what? Couldn't do it. They didn't even give me the option on my tax app. They didn't give me the option to claim the taxes. They didn't tell me how to claim the taxes. There was no box where the taxes were supposed to be that I could get back. Because I'm pissed. It wasn't going to be a lot. It was under probably $200 to $400. But still, it's money I could put in my gas tank. So much for the no tax on overtime. It's a crock of shit. And my wife, oh yeah, she earns tips. Couldn't do that either. Couldn't find the box. They make it so fucking complicated. You can't figure out how to do it, where to do it, or what to do. So we said piss on it. Didn't claim either one. So yeah, what a great deal.
I just took a peek at my taxes as a tipped employee. Not what you think it is. A lot of people are gonna be real disappointed.
All right, Trump, that's not cool, man. No tax on overtime. Well, I'm just now finding out that no tax on overtime is not no tax on overtime. There is tax on overtime. It's no tax on the half. So anything after 40 hours is time and a half. And you're still taxing the time, just not the half. Yep. And that's not how you made it out. That's not how you told us it was going to be. You're doing that fine print manipulation and deceit. If you tell us no tax on overtime, that's what we expect. Don't turn into a regular, normal politician. That's why I voted for you, because I thought you weren't a politician. But that's a politician tactic, and I'm happy. And I'm sure millions others who put in 60, 70 hours a week to put put food on the table for the family, to keep lights and heat and air conditioning on for their family. because we can't survive on 40 hours. They're not going to be happy either. You need to fix this. No tax on overtime should mean no tax on overtime, not no tax on the half of time and a half. That's that small print, that fine writing manipulation and deceit, and you're guilty of it.
Yeah, just do your research next time. That is truly the fix and solve of it. You know, just read. That's it. If you read and understand the information, I promise you, you will not be surprised in the future.
So I usually file my taxes like literally when I get my last paycheck of December, but so many people told me not to do that this year because they're the new like no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. And I was like, oh, okay. So I used all of my information from my last pay stub, and I was like, when I get the new information from my W-2, then I'll just put that in. But I put in all of my information from my last pay stub, and I was like, oh, cool, I'm getting some money back. Last year, I owed a ton, and I had to say that I donated a lot of things. This year, I'm getting some money back. It's like $200 state, $400 federal, or whatever. And then I was like, oh, it's going to change because there's no tax on overtime. And I did a shit ton of overtime before I was switched to salary in May. So I get my W-2, and then I'm like, oh, perfect. I can put in the overtime thing and then see what it changes to. I put in the overtime thing. Nothing changed. I didn't get it didn't tax me less. I got taxed the same amount. Like, I didn't end up getting more money back because of the no tax on overtime or whatever the fuck. Huh? I thought that I was supposed to be getting more money back because I worked a ton of overtime from January to May. So, riddle me this, Cal.
Remember how Kamala Harris said that there would be no tax on tips or overtime, and Donald Trump said the same thing. However, for Kamala's tax plan that she had, it was written in there specifically no tax on tips that are cash or debit card related. So a credit card, that was actually taxed, unfortunately, because, well, credit systems have to pay. Donald Trump's plan didn't state anything because you couldn't read about it because it was just, I have a plan. And then the no tax on overtime. If you read through Kamala Harris's, it was for anything and everything over 40 hours. If it was overtime, the time and a half, or if you got paid, double time or whatever it is that your company paid. You got literally anything over 40 hours, the entirety of whatever it is that you were going to get paid was tax-free. Donald Trump's, obviously, we didn't have anything in writing until all of a sudden here comes tax season where, oh, I'm going to have no tax on overtime, and here it is. No, you're getting no tax on the half hour. So if you work 41 hours where you get paid, that 1 hour is time and a half, you still get taxed for that time, just not the half. That's a bonus for the overtime. So do you feel gypped, or is it because overtime, so you're still getting paid you're still getting taxed at whatever your standard rate is, you're not getting taxed at the overtime?
Yeah, and that's the important part of just reading and doing research. That's the biggest thing.
Am I the only one that's infuriated by all this talk of no tax on overtime? It's a lie! Every time he gets up there and says, I did no tax on... Where do we have no tax on overtime? No tax on overtime means when you get your paycheck, there's no tax on overtime. Not 0.5%, or the 0.5 of your overtime is not federally taxed. But it's still everything else taxed. You get a small portion of your overtime, the half, like the time you get the half untaxed. It don't even make sense. If I gotta hear him say one more time, there's no tax on overtime. It is such a crock of bullshit. It makes my blood boil with anger. That's not what I voted for. I voted for no tax on overtime. That means when I get my paycheck, if I work 8 hours overtime, it's not taxed. People should be a lot more angry about this than they are. They're like,
Let me tell you about a guy by the name Rashid, 38 years old USPS worker with 2 kids and wife's a teacher. When no tax overtime promise hit the airwaves, Rashid started picking up every shift he could find. Christmas rush, he's there. Weekend deliveries, sign him up. He's thinking, finally the system's gonna work for me. Finally my sacrifice is gonna pay off. Tax season rolls around. Rashid sits down with TurboTax, enters his W-2 and waits for the big refund he's been promised. Then screen loads and loads, and the numbers that pop up barely different from last year. He calls me. It's like, bro, where's my money, bro? That's when we both learn the truth. There is no tax on overtime, and then there is no tax on overtime. So here's what they don't put in the campaign ads, what they didn't shout at the rallies. At the rallies, what convenient got buried in the fine print. Nobody reads. When they said no tax on overtime, they meant no tax on the half. Just the half, the premium portion, the bonus. You make $25 an hour, you work an overtime hour at time and a half, that's $37.50 total. You thought like that $7.50 would be tax free. Now, fam, they're only exempting $12.50 premium. That's original $25 still tax. You're selling your time to Uncle Sam at the regular rate. It's the political equivalent of saying free pizza, and when you show up, they hand you a coupon of for 10% off the toppings. And look, I know what some of you are thinking. At least it's something. At least we got a little bit back. I got you. Let's be real about what a little bit means when you're working class. If you picked up 10 hours of overtime a week for 3 months, that's 120 hours of your life you'll never get back. You might save a few $100 in taxes. Meanwhile, the billionaire class just got tax cuts worth millions, and they didn't have to miss a single soccer game, a single anniversary dinner, a single night of sleep. You worked your pennies on the premium. They've got paid in full for doing absolutely nothing. And this is the asymmetry of the American tax system. They frame it as we are giving back to the workers, but what they are really doing is throwing crumbs while they feast at the table you built. So here's what's different for us in the diaspora. Now, listen. Our parents came here believing in the promise, work hard, sacrifice, and you'll build something. And we've inherited that ethic. We're the ones taking the graveyard shifts, the double shift, I'll sleep when I'm dead shifts. Because we're trying to send money home, save for a house, pay off student loans, give our kids what we didn't have. So when a politician stands on stage and says, I'm going to make you your overtime tax-free, we don't hear a policy proposal. We hear a recognition. We hear, finally, someone sees how hard you're working. And then we find out it was just marketing, just another way to weaponize our work ethic for votes. The betrayal, that's not just financial, that's a cultural one, that's generational, that's the system telling us once again, your labor matters, but only up to a point. I want us to get uncomfortable for a second. Every hour of overtime you worked was an hour you weren't at home, an hour you weren't reading to your daughter, an hour you weren't cooking dinner with your partner, an hour you weren't taking care of your own mental health. You made that sacrifice because you believed that deal was fair. But the deal was never fair. It was designed to sound fair just long enough to get your vote. And now you're sitting there looking at a tax return that barely moved, realizing you traded irreplaceable time for replaceable dollars, and even those dollars got nickel and dimmed on the back end. So what are we going to do here? We got to read the fine print. Every proposal, every promise, every policy, we demand the written version before we vote, not after. Number 2, we stop letting politicians off the hook with slogans. No tax on overtime should mean no tax on overtime, not no tax on the premium portion of overtime as defined in subsection C, paragraph 4, line 37. Number 3, we remember this feeling, this exact moment of betrayal, and we channel it not into apathy, but into accountability. We show up at town halls, we demand answers, we organize, because here's the truth they don't want you to know. Our labor built this country, and we have every right to demand a system that respects that labor, not one that exploits it with false promises and fine print. The game is rigged, but only if we keep playing by the rules. Our guy Rashid, he's still picking up overtime because he has to, but he's not doing it with hope anymore. He's doing it with clarity. And clarity, my friends, is the first step to power. Don't just work harder, work smarter, and never ever let them sell you a dream without showing you the receipt. Thank you for watching. This is Static Critic, and I'll see you in the next one.